In 1891, a man named James Naismith created the sport we now love and call basketball. Two teams of 5 players each compete to score the most points. Years 1891 through 1949, basketball was primarily played by non-colored people, or mainly white people. Right after slavery ended in 1865, segregation became the next problem. Segregation played a big part in the separation of talent in the game of basketball. As time went by, the sport developed into something even greater that no one could have imagined.
October 31st, 1950, the first African American played in the NBA, Earl Lloyd. Nicknamed Big Cat, Lloyd led his West Virginia State University to an undefeated season and won the championship with the team. Lloyd was a powerful 6'6" forward that was drafted by the Washington Capitals. Earl Lloyd had an eager mentality to help African Americans become a part of the basketball community in 1950. Earl Lloyd played for the Detroit Pistons, and then a decade later he ended up becoming the head coach of the team.
April 25, 1950, Charles Chuck Cooper was drafted by the Boston Celtics to play with them. Cooper didn't make his grand entrance until November 1st, 1950, when the Celtics played against the Fort Wayne Pistons. November 4th, 1950, Nathaniel Clifton played in his first NBA game for the New York Knicks. That first game, he scored 16 points with 12 rebounds. Not only did he play basketball, but he also played professional baseball. All 3 men had different firsts and different reasons for being so inspirational. Earl Lloyd was the first to play in an NBA game, Chuck Cooper was the first to be drafted in the NBA, and Nathaniel Clifton was the first to sign an NBA contract.
On December 23, 1946, when star player Charles Chuck Cooper was a freshman at Duquesne University, he and his team showed up to play their scheduled season basketball game versus the University of Tennessee. The University of Tennessee refused to play the opposing team because there was an African American player, Charles Cooper. The coaches argued for 2 hours, and Cooper's coach finally agreed not to put him in if it was an issue unless the game was close and he had to put him in to help the team. However, the University of Tennessee thought that the team was being disrespectful in the first place for even showing up with a black player to compete. The University of Tennessee ended up forfeiting the game entirely.
Now, and I have to set this straight. Chuck Cooper, tremendous guy, man. I mean, he's a tremendous ball player. The Boston Celtics drafted him on the second round, that was monumental in 1950.
Right.
If the Celtics had not taken Chuck on the second round, I cannot see the Washington Capitals stepping up to make me the first black draftee in the NBA.
That kind of.
4 more people that changed not just the game of basketball, but made people realize that African Americans are worth so much more than exhausting labor and restricted freedom. William Russell, Michael Jordan, Bill Garrett, and Wilt Chamberlain. William Russell was the first African American to win MVP in NBA history. He won this award by his outstanding effort on the court. He averaged around 16 points and 22 rebounds. Russell was a phenomenal player for the Boston Celtics. Bill Russell was a special member to the basketball industry and made people realize that African Americans could help dignify the community. Michael Jordan was a remarkable person for the Chicago Bulls and the business field. He averaged 30 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals a game, which is very good. MJ was more of just a basketball player. He partnered with Nike and created the fashion staple piece Air Jordan brand. This includes Air Jordan 1s, the first basketball shoe that was ever made by a very own NBA player that designed their own shoe. MJ impacted the world largely with his talent.
Bill Garrett, the Indiana star, the first African American to play in the Big Ten Conference. He went to a local college, Indiana University. While his actual name is William Leon Garrett, he was also called Uncle Bill. He was also named Indiana Mr. Basketball in 1947 after leading his high school team to their first state championship. In 1959, Garrett coached the Indianapolis high school boys basketball team and led yet another team to state championship. He was named the only Indiana Mr. Basketball to win a state champion as a player and as a coach. Wilt Chamberlain is one of the most important African American basketball players that made a big impact on the game of basketball doing what he loves. He set many records and accomplishments for the NBA, for example, scoring 4,000 points in a season. Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell had a strong rivalry for each other. The rivalry of Wilt and Bill had people talking for years. Up until this day, people still talk about the rivalry and the game they went against each other in 1966.
March 15, 1963, one of the biggest games was played. The game of change was the college basketball game that made history and made even more people look at the sport of basketball for colored people. The Ramblers basketball team, a team with black men, made history when they played against an all-white team, the Mississippi State Bulldogs. Not only did they defeat the opposing team, but the game went to overtime, and Ramblers ended up beating the Mississippi State Bulldogs by 2 points, 60-58. They ended up winning the 1963 national title. This game is something that even Obama decided was so special that he should frame it on his wall. The NCAA Division I team, Davidson basketball team, in 1950 changed over the years once the racial integration of basketball started. During 1950, you didn't see much diversity in the players of the team. Over the decades, the Davidson basketball team in the 2000s, you can see the color of the players drastically changed. The 14th Amendment was passed in July of 1868 and was ratified in June of 1866. This amendment gave people born in the U.S. equal rights. This included formerly enslaved people. Because of this, African Americans have the rights they do now and are allowed to do things like playing in the NBA.
Integration in basketball ended up being more successful than other sports because the people were more willing to play basketball with people of color. After the first few African Americans joined the NBA, people were kind and showed respect versus treating them differently because of their race. Allowing African Americans in the NBA was a decision that changed the basketball community over time. Today, almost half of NBA players are African Americans. Allowing them to play in the NBA made it better. Now they get to show off skills they have to their teammates and even the fans that are watching and rooting for them.